Through the world of immortality and chivalry, He Changxing activated the Heavenly Tao simulation system. I thought I was a standard protagonist template, but unexpectedly, I became a big villain. Nima. After a difficult journey through countless difficulties and obstacles, how many days and nights of secret cultivation have become stepping stones for the protagonist. Fortunately, he has a Heavenly Tao simulator on him, which not only allows him to be proactive, but also rewards him with every simulation he opens. But why did his two unscrupulous little maids come back alive? His life simulation doesn't have this segment at all. This script is not right. System error me. These two heartless women are reborn for revenge. They are discussing in front of me how to kill me. Is this polite? Then, He Changxing realized that something was wrong with his reborn village, Xiaohe village. Keywords of the novel. How did I simulate being a big villain without a pop-up window? How did I simulate being a big villain? Download the complete text. How did I simulate being a big villain? Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Heavenly Tao Simulation, No Deception for Old and Young People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Heavenly Tao Simulation, No Deception for Old and Young People. Daki Border Wilderness. Xiaohe Village. Early morning. He Changxing was still meeting Duke Zhou in his dream when he suddenly heard someone talking incessantly in his ear. Startled, he immediately flipped over and sat up, quickly scanning around. Seeing nothing unusual, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be a dream. He was disturbed just now and now has no intention of sleeping, otherwise he would at least be able to sleep until the sun rises 3 times. Heavenly Tao Simulator. Produced by Heavenly Tao, no one can deceive children or old people. What are you still hesitating about? The machine cannot be missed and will not come again. Don't you hurry to bind it. Choose to log in now and start your first simulation. When the same voice rang out again, He Changxing suddenly woke up with an indescribable excitement in his expression. It turned out that it was not a dream, but a necessary system for travelers. Finally, it had arrived. That's right, he's a traveler from Earth. He has been in this world for 2 years now, and the parents of the original owner are nowhere to be found. Thanks to the support of the villagers in Xiaohe village, he has been extremely excited since he found out that this is a world of immortals and knights a while ago. Traveling through a small mountain village without a father or mother, coupled with now obtaining the necessary system for travelers, is this not a proper protagonist persona? Without any hesitation, He Changxing immediately said. Log in now. The Tiandao simulator has been successfully bound. Status. Not activated. Activation condition. Sufficient spiritual power, first time meeting, reward beginners with a large gift package. Warm reminder. If opened in a specific environment, there may be unexpected effects. At the first glance at the newbie gift package, He Changxing couldn't wait to open it. Fortunately, he paid more attention to the words behind it, otherwise he might not have had time to cry now. What is a specific environment? Looking at the desolate Xiaohe village, he quickly dispelled the idea of opening it up. Based on his years of experience as an old bookworm, it is highly likely that the items displayed in this beginner's gift package are related to the quality of the environment he is in. If we open it now, maybe we can give him a hoe. On the contrary, if he joins the immortal sect, the items he opens up are likely to be immortal treasures, magical powers, and miraculous medicines. This simulation does not consume spiritual power. Do you want to start the first life simulation? Being able to know one's future life in advance, isn't it the ability to be proactive? Confirm activation. He Changxing's face lit up with joy. He didn't expect the system to be so considerate. Unable to suppress his excitement, he quickly started his first simulation. Soon, line after line of text began to slowly emerge before his eyes. At the age of 18, full of dreams, you embarked on a journey of searching for immortals and exploring the Tao. At the moment of departure, many villagers advised you to consider carefully. The outside world is full of dangers, and you do not take it seriously. The path of the strong should be fearless, and you did not notice the complexity in the eyes of the village chief. As you have just left the village, you are a bit confused and can only go to the nearest Yangping County to try your luck. 2 days later, you finally arrived in Yangping County. An old man passed by this place with a fairy-like demeanor and a strong sword. You quickly stepped forward and were about to pay your respects, when the other party also noticed you, who was quite handsome in the crowd. After a brief exploration by the old man, he was immediately overjoyed and said that you have exceptional talent and are rare to see in 100 years. If you follow him to cultivate immortality, your future prospects will be limitless. On this day, you worship the old man as your teacher and return to the Feather Transformation Immortal sect with him. When you learned that the old man was actually the leader of the Feather Transformation Immortal sect, you immediately felt that your future as an immortal was promising. Master Li Daozuan has high hopes for you. With the strong cultivation of your sect, your cultivation has made rapid progress and quickly surpassed many senior brothers. At the age of 19, you were no longer invincible among the younger generation. Li Daozuan regarded you as the future of the Feather Transformation Immortal sect, and soon after, you were appointed as the young master of the Feather Transformation Immortal sect. Seeing this, He Changxing couldn't help but look happy. It seems that his previous guess was not wrong. He is a reliable protagonist template. It was all too smooth, even without any setbacks, that made him feel something was wrong. No longer bothering himself, He Changxing continued to watch the following text. At the age of 21, you successfully broke through the Golden Elixir period and became the youngest Golden Elixir cultivator of the Feather Transformation Immortal sect. With unparalleled popularity at the age of 22, you continue to practice in your sect. At the age of 24, Li Daozuan went through a life of 9 deaths from the fairyland of Yaoqi and found the heavenly spirit grass for you. What you don't know is that Li Daozuan's root gene is damaged. At the age of 25, you finally refined the medicinal power of the heavenly spirit grass. Not only did you double the size of the purple mansion, but you also took the opportunity to break through the elixir and transform the baby, making your reputation even stronger. It seems that I have paid homage to a good master. He Changxing was somewhat moved. Li Daozuan has a certain aura of being the head of Huashan Mountain. Be diligent and hardworking towards the sect. To my disciple, forget it, master, you still shouldn't learn from Master Yu. You have been devoted to the Tao for decades, living up to the high expectations of your master Li Daozuan. At the age of 43, you beheaded the first primordial spirit. Li Daozuan is greatly pleased, and all the elders have seen hope for the rise of the sect from you. At this moment, the fairyland of Yaoqi was once again opened, and Li Daozuan felt that your mood was lacking. Without experiencing ups and downs, how could you transform into a dragon under the covert protection of Li Daozuan? You have traversed through thorns and thorns in the fairyland of Yaoqi, reaping abundant rewards. As a magnificent and unparalleled figure, you have shocked everyone. This master really values himself very much, but with such a high profile, it's easy to become a target of criticism. Did you take the wrong path? Being low-key and steady is the way to survive. He Changxing continued to look down with a strange expression. On the treasure refining cliff, a legendary demon sword that no one could pull up caught your attention. However, just as you were about to take action, an ordinary young man had already taken the lead and pulled up the demon sword. After hesitating for a moment, you chose to take action and snatch it, but the young man was knocked down from the refining cliff by you. You, who initiated the killing, benefited from the teachings of your master Li Daozuan. You don't have any psychological burden. This world is already a world of the fittest, with deceit and deceit. You deeply believe it. A man is innocent and harbors a grudge. This is already a world of cannibalism, where no one is right or wrong. To survive, one must learn to adapt to the laws of survival. He Changxing pondered, never being indecisive. It seems that there is something wrong with the plot, which gives him a sense of familiarity, but he can't say the problem for a moment. At the age of 44, with the strong efforts of Li Daozuan, the sect decided to fully tilt its resources towards you. Many disciples of the feathered immortal sect began to be dissatisfied with you, but due to your power, they dared not say anything. At the age of 45, under the full cultivation of the sect, you were deeply moved and decided to practice in seclusion. You should not disappoint the sect's expectations. You did not notice a glimmer of brilliance in your master's eyes at the age of 46, you are practicing in seclusion at the age of 47, you are practicing in seclusion at the age of 40. 8. You felt the time was ripe and were preparing to practice and return to the void. Master Li Daozuan entered your room under the pretext of protecting the Tao, but you didn't think too much and gladly accepted it. There's something wrong with Li Daozuan. He Changqing had a bad premonition in his heart, which he didn't expect. He could only say that the other party was hiding too deeply. Isn't this old thing trying to harm me? End of this chapter. Did I take the wrong script for chapter 2? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Did I take the wrong script for chapter 2? At the critical moment when you were about to break through, Master Li Daozuan attempted to take you away. At this moment, your mind was unstable and completely unprepared. At this critical moment, the magic sword beside you emitted a faint light, and in an instant, it devoured Li Daozuan's elemental spirit. Your Master Li Dao's life and death are fading away. After experiencing a crisis of life and death, you wake up from a dream and unknowingly sweat your clothes. It's hard for you to imagine that the Master who took great care of you on a daily basis just now, and finally deeply understood what the Master often mentioned about the law of the jungle. You have regained your strength, your mood has unconsciously improved, and it is natural for you to break through the period of returning to emptiness. He Changqing. He retracted his previous words, and Li Daozuan, this terrible old man, is very bad. Isn't this a replica of Master Yu? He Changqing is a bit melancholy, he is still too young after all. It seems that I am indeed the protagonist template, the protagonist's aura is too strong. Fortunately, I am the protagonist. Even in the face of a life or death crisis, I can turn danger into safety in various bizarre ways. Keep reading. After this incident, your temperament has changed greatly and you realize that your current situation is not safe. There are still many people in the sect who want to put you to death, but your foundation is still shallow, so you choose to endure and destroy your body. At the age of 49, you secretly cultivated your influence and won the support of many elders. The sect considers that Li Daozuan has been missing for over a year, and the feathered immortal sect cannot remain without a leader for a day. As the young sect leader, you have taken over the position of leader. At the age of 50, after a year of operation, the feather immortal sect has been completely controlled by you, and all those discordant voices no longer exist. This sect is indeed the most controversial place. He Changqing sighed helplessly. He actually detests this kind of scheming and fighting. He has always had a personality of being able to use his hands without much nonsense. At the age of 51, you have been practicing in seclusion for a year and feel that your progress is slow, so you go out to seek opportunities. 2 days later, you arrived at Shanglua, the capital city of Daqi, and coincidentally, Princess Luojia of Daqi competed in martial arts to invite a bride. As you look at the graceful figure on the stage, you suddenly realize that no wonder you have been feeling something wrong lately. It turns out that you are missing a maid by your side. You noticed a hostile gaze in the crowd, but after unsuccessful exploration, you didn't think much, so you missed an opportunity for change. As the leader of the Feather Transformation Immortal Sect, you certainly won't lower your status and go to challenge. After taking Luo Jia away, just leave one sentence. Feather Transformation Immortal Sect welcomes everyone to come and seek advice. Due to your status, the ruler of Qi dared not speak out or be angry, who has a grudge against themselves at this time. Are they admirers of Luo Jia? What kind of maid can I find if I have nothing to do? Women are the most troublesome creatures. He Changqing's expression was somewhat strange, and seeing this made him vaguely feel that things might not be that simple. Don't think too much anymore. Anyway, if you encounter them again in the future, there won't be any chance for them to escape the next time. You have visited several immortal sects in a row and found that there is none that can be defeated. Their inheritance also has little to learn from, far from the Yunmeng immortal technique of the feather transformation immortal sect, and they have lost interest at this moment. The maid Luo Jia suggested that she might as well go to the Eternal Night Demon sect, as there might be unexpected gains. You have seen through the cunning little maid's attempt to provoke a dispute between the Feather Immortal sect and the Eternal Night Demon sect. After some punishment, you have decided to go to the Eternal Night Demon sect to investigate. This maid always wants to plot against me, she really should be killed. He Changxing secretly remembered in his heart, and when he saw her in the future, he would settle the old and new accounts together. You brought Luojia to the Eternal Night Demon sect and found that the demon sect that others were talking about was somewhat different from what you had imagined. It is said that the Eternal Night Demon sect, like the Feathered Immortal sect, has a deep foundation and can compete with each other. You secretly infiltrated the Eternal Night Demon sect and directly captured the Holy Maiden of the Demon sect, interrogating her severely. Under your influence, the Holy Maiden of the Demon sect, Yoli, broke through the defense directly. Looking at the lonely maid Luo Jia beside her, considering that she was a bit lonely, you thought that good things should be in pairs, so you also took Yoli as a maid. This is definitely not me, I don't play with it like this. Women and other things only affect my speed of drawing swords. He Changxing pondered for a moment, attributing all of this to Li Daozuan. It seemed that this sudden change in temperament had a profound impact on himself. I just don't know what these two maids look like. Keep looking down. You learn that the Eternal Night Demon sect has discovered a ruins of a Mahayana period dojo, which has damaged several experts in the sect. Just a step away from opening it, you have decided to use a mantis to catch cicadas and yellow sparrows. One day later, you arrived at the Mahayana period dojo and after some exploration, you found that what Yoli said was not false. The experts of the Eternal Night Demon sect suffered heavy casualties, even the only demon sect leader who posed a threat to you was severely injured. In order to prevent evil deeds of the maids with ill intentions, you imprisoned them in a nearby cave. Why is there such a big gap between this maid and the maid? This Yoli is very good at judging the situation. He Changxing nodded satisfactorily, then thought of Luo Jia, feeling somewhat disgusted. Luo Jia, this foolish woman, fortunately met her gentle and refined self. Otherwise, this kind of crazy probing nature on the brink of death would definitely not survive a chapter. The experts of the Eternal Night Demon sect have gone through countless dangers and finally broken through the barrier of the Mahayana period dojo. They are preparing to cheer and celebrate when you suddenly appear out of place, causing the expressions of the demon sect to freeze instantly. The leader of the demon sect knows he is invincible. Although he is extremely unwilling, due to your power, he can only hide his hatred deep and prepare to take the demon sect crowd out of this place. You are well aware of the principle of releasing tigers back to the mountains, so you tried to take action to keep them, but the other party was already on guard and eventually allowed them to escape. Unfortunately, this must be a hidden danger. The Eternal Night Demon sect suffered a great loss of vitality, but in the end, they made a wedding dress for themselves. This beam has grown big, and we have to guard against it in the future. It's best to take advantage of his illness and take his life. He Changxing firmly recorded this matter. Hatred can make people crazy. You have gained a lot in the dojo, including various spiritual pills, spirits, and rare elixirs. After indulging in them, you turn your gaze to the stone walls of the dojo. A mysterious and inexplicable unnamed supernatural power that deeply traps your consciousness. Countless reincarnation phenomena, all things grow and disappear, and countless vast vicissitudes turn into decay. At the age of 50.2, you finally woke up from sinking, and the stone walls also crumbled. You understood the nameless power, and your mood was greatly improved. If I see the Eternal Night Demon sect again, should I say thank you to them and then cut down the roots? Otherwise, wouldn't it seem impolite to me? He Changxing pondered. Not seen for a year, your two maids are quite haggard, and you feel a bit guilty. So you promoted them to personal maids and brought them back to the Feather Immortal sect. At the age of 50.3, you began to practice in seclusion at the age of 54, you are currently practicing in seclusion at the age of 63, you are currently practicing in seclusion at the age of 69, your cultivation has made rapid progress, but due to the lack of spiritual energy in heaven and earth, you are only one step away from the Mahayana period. You have a crazy idea at the age of 70, you created the Tongtian divine pillar to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, causing almost half of the spiritual energy of Qi to dry up. The people of the world are filled with resentment towards you. Is it a bit too much hatred? How can such a thing be openly done? If you want to do it, you have to do it secretly. He Changxing had a bad premonition in his heart, cutting off people's money was like killing parents. He is much more serious than cutting off people's money. This kind of thing is either not to be done, or to be done completely, and you cannot let others know that you did it. At the age of 71, just as your plan was about to be completed, someone quietly infiltrated the heavenly pillar. By the time you realized it was already too late, the other party had completely refined the heavenly pillar, breaking through the Mahayana period in one fell swoop. Heartbreak. Heartbreak is unbearable. Did I take the wrong script? He Changxing is numb. His expression was mixed with 3 parts anger, 3 parts powerlessness, and 4 parts impatience. Watching the thief and the petty person succeed, you were furious and almost vomited blood. Finally, you remembered that the person in front of you was the young man who was robbed of the magic sword and knocked down the refining cliff by you. He Changxing fell into silence, he only wanted to be quiet now. Soon, news came from the Feather Immortal sect again. Yi Qin gathered the royal family of Qi, the Eternal Night Demon sect, and many scattered cultivators to come and kill them. The Feather Immortal sect was defeated, and in the end, the entire sect was destroyed. You engaged in a decisive battle with Yi Qin, and with a significant difference, you quickly exhausted your strength. Later, you were ambushed by the leader of the demon sect and suffered heavy damage. Yi Qin seized the opportunity to launch a fatal attack on you, and you, who were still ambitious, drank your hatred on the spot. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. I became the big bad. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. I became the big bad. I thought I was the protagonist, but I didn't expect to be a villain. He Changxing frowned and his face looked a bit ugly. Is that all? His failure is too hasty, isn't it? Nima. After a hard journey through countless difficulties and obstacles, how many day and night of cultivation have become stepping stones for you? This negative emotion didn't last long, and he quickly regained his composure. Even if he was the villain, what if he had already understood the entire plot? Isn't it easy for him to turn his fate around? That's why Yi Qin started his adventure when he was knocked down from the refining cliff by himself. The hostile gaze he received later in the capital of Qi, Shanglua, should also be this kid. The other party relied on this extremely advanced method of concealment to evade their own exploration, especially in the end, they were able to deceive others and seize their own opportunities, leading to their own downfall. The cold light flickered in He Changxing's eyes, and he couldn't wait to repeat the story again. In fact, through simulation, his most intuitive feeling is that he is too high. Profile. It doesn't matter if he has too many enemies, but the key is that he did not achieve the eradication of the root cause, which later became the target of criticism. For example, what's the use of those 2 maids? He Changxing simply packed his bags and prepared to depart for Yangping County, once again following the original trajectory to apprentice to Li Daozuan. In fact, there is nothing to tidy up. His family is as poor as a church mouse, and the only decent clothes were given to him by the White Widow during last year's Chinese New Year. The village has a simple and honest customs, and the villagers treat him well, especially the White Widow, who has taken good care of him over the years. Well, I heard he's planning to leave Xiaohe village and go out to search for immortals and seek enlightenment. Many people from the village have come to see him off. Changxing, listen to uncle's advice. There's a dead end to cultivating immortality, you can't grasp it, said a middle-aged man with a complicated expression as he looked at He Changsheng, who was about to leave Xiaohe village. Uncle Li, you don't need to persuade me anymore. I must cultivate this immortal, and of course, I also cannot bear to part with my fellow villagers. I heard that immortals can fly to heaven and earth without any hesitation. Don't worry, when I achieve my cultivation, I will come back to see you often. He Changsheng's emotions were somewhat moved, but he still chose the immortal path he had been longing for without hesitation. Cough cough, Changsheng, since you have made up your mind to go, we will not stop you. Although I have never seen a fairy, how can a fairy be entangled in worldly affairs? You only need to remember the villagers in your heart. There is a wider world waiting for you outside. This barren Xiaohe village will only affect your desire to seek immortality and the way. The old village chief's face changed slightly, and he instantly regained his previous kindness. Thank you very much for the guidance of the village chief, young man. Remember it in your heart. He Changsheng nodded heavily, feeling grateful. What kind villagers, they are clearly reluctant to part with themselves, but afraid of affecting their future. He Changsheng secretly swore in his heart that he would take the villagers of Xiaohe village to heaven when he became an immortal and ancestor in the future. Alas, I have another piece of advice for you. Listen to the elders, the outside world is full of dangers, and if you don't pay attention, you will die. If you encounter someone from a family who is useless, whose cultivation is ruined, a roadside beggar, an abandoned son of a sect, and so on, you must keep your distance. The old village chief sighed and hesitated, but in the end, he said solemnly. Upon hearing this, He Changsheng's body trembled and his face couldn't help but become somewhat strange. Watching He Changsheng's figure gradually recede, the old village chief shook his head somewhat helplessly. The blacksmith song beside him couldn't help but say, "Village chief, why are you going here? It may bring trouble to the village. Should we move another place?" The old village chief remained silent for a moment and said slowly, "Don't worry, I have left a trace of divine energy on He Xiaozi. If there is any abnormality, we can also respond in a timely manner." The village chief is clever, and indeed Jiang is still old and spicy, said the blacksmith song with a joyful expression, immediately praising the old village chief. The white widow, with her charming demeanor, glanced at the blacksmith by song and said coquettishly, "If you want me to tell you, village chief, you are still too indecisive. The best way is to leave Changsheng in Xiaohe village. He wants to cultivate immortality, and we can either bring him into the door. Isn't it better than those outside? If you find it troublesome, they are willing to help, so naturally there will be no more hidden dangers in the future. Widow Bai, are you trying to take an apprentice? I'm too embarrassed to expose you just like you did in the Hehuan sect." "He's still a child," said the blacksmith song with a disdainful expression on his face. "Humph, what do you know?" Widow Bai snorted lightly, too lazy to argue with the charming old man song blacksmith again. Outside the village, He Changsheng traveled all the way east, with rugged mountain roads that were difficult to walk. Xiaohe village was almost isolated from the outside world, and the villagers seemed to be very resistant to the outside world. They had always been self-sufficient. Although the sparrow in Xiaohe village was small, it had all 5 internal organs, including blacksmiths, carpenters, doctors, and even Taoist priests who caught ghosts. Although that person is usually neurotic and no one in the village seems to believe him, when the other party draws talismans, it seems quite similar. Anyway, since he traveled, he hasn't seen many people outside. Xiaohe village is tens of miles away from Yangping. Detected variables in your future, please restart the drill. The Heavenly Dao simulator is not activated and cannot be practiced. Listening to the familiar voice in his ear, He Changsheng didn't think much. Since he already knew the future, his life trajectory would naturally change accordingly. He wants to rise faster, and Feather Immortal Sect is still his best choice. However, the terrible old man Li Daozuan is the great threat he will face. He cannot rely all his hope on the magic sword, and it is uncertain what will happen. He must turn passive into active, and even choose to take the initiative to attack. However, before he could finish his contemplation, He Changsheng heard a cold and coquettish drink. The old demon is there, don't let him run away. As soon as he finished speaking, He Changsheng immediately felt himself locked in by several fierce energies, which made his expression change slightly. Before he could react, two graceful figures surrounded him in the middle, giving him no chance to escape. Two fairies, I am polite in this room. You may not believe me when you say it, but you have definitely mistaken me. I am not the person you speak of. I have a pure family background and am kind to others, living in the nearby Xiaohe village. He Changsheng cursed inwardly with bad luck and suppressed his unease, smiling all over his face. The saying goes, reach out and don't hit a smiling person. He tries his best to appear harmless to humans and animals. These two individuals have extraordinary temperament, and at just one glance, they amazed him to the point where their looks were on par. He had never seen such a beautiful face before, so he shouldn't be from the demon realm, right? So, this encounter may not necessarily be a crisis. Maybe the other party realizes they have mistaken someone, and seeing his talent and intelligence, they can't wait to include him in the door. Unfortunately, he already has a crush on someone, a man they will never get. The new book sets sail, seeking collection, recommendation, and monthly pass. Thank you all. In addition, the maids are already in their 30s, and they are all cultivators. Shou Yuan cannot see it from the perspective of mortals. Why not invite marriage at the age of 70 or 80 for Luo Jia? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Is really unlucky. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 is really unlucky. Even if you turn into dust, I won't admit it wrong. You're still so smooth-tongued. Unfortunately, I won't believe your lies. Let's die. One of the girls snorted coldly, with a slightly angry expression on her face. Luojia, don't take it lightly, Lao Mo is not that simple. And don't forget, the several exquisite formations arranged by people in Xiaohe village, which isolate the cultivators, may have come from him. Perhaps the old demon came back earlier than us, or maybe it was him. Another young girl said solemnly. I see that you are just a worrier. The old demon is right in front of us now. You can't tell if he has any cultivation, can you? Luojia pursed her lips and frowned lightly. The top priority now is to deal with him quickly to avoid long dreams at night. Watching He Changsheng within reach, Luo Jia couldn't help feeling nervous. The shadows from the depths of her soul were not easily erased. She will never repeat the same mistake, she must nip the other person in the bud before they grow up. Now Lao Mo is just a young and inexperienced boy, and the other party has no cultivation at all. She had already investigated it in the first place, and the worry of the witch Yoli was completely unnecessary. Listening to their conversation, the expression on He Changsheng's face suddenly froze. Luojia. Witch, why does this name sound so familiar? Aren't they just my two mischievous maids? Do they also have celestial simulators on them? This heavenly Tao simulator must be from a bad street. Also, why is this different from the script? Can you explain it to me in the system? Heavenly Tao simulator, produced by Heavenly Tao, fair to all, this is the only one, there is no other semicolon. The Heavenly Tao simulator has not been activated. Please activate it as soon as possible. He Changsheng forced a smile and quickly defended himself, cough, two fairies. If you really don't believe me, why don't you come with me to the nearby Xiaohe village to verify your health? My life is not worth it, but we must not let the real villains go unpunished and delay the important matters of the two fairies. Looking at He Changsheng with an innocent face and a hint of grievance mixed in his expression, neither Luo Jia nor Yuli showed any emotion on their faces. Of course you won't remember. If it weren't, wouldn't you be even more damn? Yoli snorted coldly, her gaze at the other person becoming increasingly unfriendly. Upon hearing this, Luo Jia's beautiful eyes flowed and she stared at He Changsheng thoughtfully, saying. This doesn't necessarily mean that with the cunning of the old demon, who knows if he really doesn't remember or if he doesn't remember falsely. Perhaps even now, the other party is still acting with us. Unfortunately, with your mouth still shining like a lotus flower, you are also doomed today. Feeling the scrutinizing gaze of Luo Jia, He Changxing felt uncomfortable all over. He is really unjust. Through the description of the Heavenly Tao simulator, it is clear that I will treat them well in the future. Do you want to harbor such malice towards him? Stop talking nonsense. I think we should just kill him with one knife, once and for all. Yuli made a gesture, and this kind of thing requires a quick cut to the chaos. She is not as ignorant as Luo Jia, and can easily be seduced by the other party's sweet words. Isn't this too cheap for him? Thinking about what the old demon had done to us before, since he hasn't grown up yet and has now fallen into our hands, we might as well treat him in his own way. When we get tired of playing, it's not too late to take his life. Luo Jia waved his fist and said with a somewhat angry expression. Yoli immediately gave Luo Jia a big white eye and said, "Idiot." Luo Jia snorted coldly, and her starry eyes flickered. Yoli, I've been holding you back for a long time. If you're going to cause trouble again, don't blame me for being impolite. He Changxing is very speechless now. These two stinky women are not good at it, and their minds are so malicious. If this continues, he will really fall into trouble here. Although the direction is not harmonious and his strength is only careless, he is still just an ordinary person. Even if he tries hard, he cannot slip under the opponent's nose. By the way, how could you forget about the system? The Jianhu is in urgent need. If you don't make any further progress, you will lose me, the master of your bright and majestic world, forever. Don't worry, when you arrive at the Feather Transformation Immortal Sect, if I have one bite to eat, you will have half a bite to eat. He Changxing quickly thought to himself, this system can't just face death without rescue. Ding, the Heavenly Tao simulator is not activated. The system deeply sympathizes with your situation, but expresses helplessness. Kind reminder, you still have an unused beginner gift pack. Choose to start now, there may be unexpected surprises. He Changxing's eyes suddenly lit up and he chose to open it without even thinking about it. According to the normal routine, it seems that he has been saved this time. He will become an immortal and ancestor in the future. If he were to be killed by two young maids, wouldn't that be too unfair? He Changxing was full of anticipation, with a hint of speculation in his heart. He could accept whether the newbie gift package contained a strong experience card, a cultivation reward, or even a life-saving talisman. Extracting. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the might of the strong experience card, dog system, dare you say this is not a black screen. He Changxing was like falling into an ice cave, and this kind of ups and downs made his face pale. He finds it difficult to calm himself down. This kind of thing is known by its name as very weak, experiencing the majesty of a strong person, and it has some practical value. This is a crucial moment of life and death, so much so that both Luo Jia and Yuli noticed something unusual, and he still doesn't know it. Which, don't you think he was scared silly by us? Why did he suddenly become dull and foolish? Luo Jia's sword-like eyes solemnly scrutinized He Changxing. Her intuition told her that there was definitely something strange about the other person, and she didn't dare to be careless. Her spiritual power slowly flowed through her body, ready to launch a fatal blow at any time. Seemingly sensing Luo Jia's thoughts, Yoli immediately cast a positive gaze. Upon hearing these words, He Changxing immediately turned pale and regained his senses. Unconsciously, his collar was already covered in fine sweat. Damn it! It's all the fault of this dog system. Not only did it not help, but it also caused him a lot of chaos. Alright now, his recent abnormality has clearly caught the other party's attention. Forget it, just die. Now we can only treat a dead horse as a living horse doctor. He Changqing's heart was crossed and he directly chose to use the Might of the Strong experience card. I originally wanted to get along with you in the way of an ordinary person, but in exchange for shouting and killing. Since that's the case, I won't pretend, I'll show my cards, and I'll all die for you. He Changqing suddenly chuckled and said calmly. There is only one experience card in the entire book, which is a beginner's gift package. In the later simulations, the rewards are all rewards for a certain item or cultivation in the simulation, as well as rewards remembered by others. This beginner's gift package is not related to the simulated rewards. And let's not talk about the weak influence of saints and the fact that the leader of the Tongtian sect is weaker than Haotian. My book is designed in this way, and other people's books are also designed by others. Don't just read other people's books and bring their systems over. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The Might of the Strong Experience Card. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The Might of the Strong Experience Card. The Might of the Strong Experience Card. After use, the host will undergo a transformation in both temperament and surface momentum, but will not suffer any substantial damage. The host can choose one of the following character templates. Mist Hidden South Mountain King Master Tongtian Heavenly Emperor Haotian, Continuous Effect. 1 hour. Special Effect. Covering the Heavenly Machine. Surprisingly, it's these three people. He Changqing's face lit up with joy. At least these three people were familiar to him. If they were three unfamiliar options, with his blackened face, he might actually be able to choose a weak chicken. These days, there are too many names for deceiving people. Anyone dares to call themselves immortal ancestors. I have chosen the leader of the heavenly sect. There is almost no hesitation, and there is no room for hesitation. Earthlings know that the other two options, one has been beaten by a monkey, and the other cannot even beat a pig, are naturally not within his scope of consideration. You have chosen the Heavenly Master, and the reward generation is in progress. Suddenly, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth shook, transforming into golden rays that flowed down. A strand of vast and vicissitudes of life gradually spread around He Changqing's body. Above the sky, a golden light fell into the earth. In the blink of an eye, a golden lotus rose from the ground, and a purple aura filled the air. All kinds of auspiciousness were displayed, as if celebrating his arrival. At this moment, the entire sky and earth became bleak, because of the cover-up of the heavenly machine. Except for Luo Jia and Yu Li, outsiders could not see such a magnificent scene. The two women's hearts trembled, and the figure of He Changqing suddenly became mysterious in their eyes. They couldn't even look directly at each other, and just one glance made their foreheads sweat profusely, and their bodies almost couldn't stand. Looking at He Changqing again, his face remained indifferent, and he could see the two of them in a state of embarrassment. How refreshing! He Changqing exclaimed in his heart that he was satisfied. If it weren't for his fear of exposure, he would be laughing uncontrollably now. Undoubtedly produced by the system, although it looks like a chicken rib, it still hasn't fallen off the chain in critical moments. Unfortunately, all of this is false. He is now like a paper tiger, just superficially. However, even so, the pressure of the sage on him has not diminished at all. The so-called sage is nothing but ants. Even if the Luo comes, he must obediently bow down in front of the sage. But then again, why haven't these two crazy women left yet? Aren't you scared out of your wits? If we don't leave again, won't we have to help each other later? He Changqing was preparing to add more heat to them, and his words were mixed with a hint of sage pressure, saying, "Your proposal just now was quite good. Don't say I won't give you a chance. There are two paths. You can choose one. Do you want to leave your life now or wait for me to calm down before I take your life? Hurry up and leave." Yoli's face changed drastically, and she quickly shouted to Luo Jia, who looked at her with death on her face. "Even if you know you are invincible, you cannot sit idly by. Anyway, there won't be any worse outcome than death." Without saying a word, Yoli grabbed Luojia with her left hand and turned into a rainbow, quickly escaping towards the east. At this moment, Luojia finally reacted and quickly followed Yoli to activate her spiritual power. The two women quickly disappeared without a trace. Just let go of a very unwilling and harsh sentence, still drifting in the void. Old devil. Wait for me, I will come back again. He Changxing breathed a heavy sigh of relief, and his constantly tense heart finally felt relieved. It seems that the other party will not come back in the short term. But this is not a long-term solution. The other party obviously won't give up easily. He can intimidate the other party for a while, but fake ones will eventually be exposed. Next time, he won't have such good luck again, and the system doesn't have a second beginner gift package for him. The other party may find out at any time that they have been deceived and come back to take his life. This matter actually cannot withstand scrutiny, and there are many suspicious aspects, especially his performance before and after. If he really has the strength of a saint, how can he let the other party slip under his nose? At this point, even Yangping became unsafe. If the other party couldn't find him on the road, they would inevitably choose to go to Yangping and wait for the rabbit. Following his original trajectory, he would only depart after a while, which means that it will be some time before Li Daozuan arrives in Yangping. He Changxing rubbed his head, his eyes filled with helplessness. Just as he was pondering what to do next, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his mind, recalling an important message from the conversation between those two crazy women. They said that Xiaohe village was set up with a formation to block cultivators. Is there any unknown secret hidden in the ordinary Xiaohe village? He Changxing pondered for a moment, but if he couldn't figure it out, he decided not to worry about himself anymore. I just don't know if the formation in the village can be converted into a spiritual activation system. He Changxing couldn't help but feel a little moved by this, but he eventually gave up the idea. It's better not to die for now. In case the entire formation is scrapped, those two crazy women will come chasing us again, and we won't even have time to cry. Never mind, let's go back first. The outside world is really too dangerous, and just as I left, I got into a fatal accident. It's better to find a way to go to the Feather Immortal sect as soon as possible. As he Changxing returned, Luo Jia and Yuli ran hundreds of miles without looking back. After glancing at the absence of any signs of the old demon chasing after him, Luo Jia's face turned pale and he said with lingering fear, the old demon must have been reborn before us, and has become even more terrifying than in the past. With the opponent's vengeful personality, he will definitely not let us go. What should we do? What are you panicking about? I think we might have been deceived again. Yoli furrowed her brows and recalled her previous experience. The more she thought about it, the more she felt something was wrong. Don't say silly things, then pressure can't be fake. This time, I owe you something, Luo Jia immediately denied. She has long been suspicious of Yoli's nature. Yoli's eyebrows couldn't help but furrow deeper, and she said with a somewhat dazed expression. Don't you understand the character of the old demon yet? If he really has the ability to keep us, how could he let the tiger go back to the mountain? If he really is that strong, how could we have a chance to escape? If the old demon in his past life could rise to fame in such a short period of time, he must have some unknown trump card. Although I don't know how he achieved that kind of pressure, it must have been a bluff. This. Luo Jia opened her eyes wide, her expression filled with disbelief, but Yoli's analysis was clear and convincing, and she couldn't help but believe it. Let's go back now. The old demon must not have gone far yet. Luo Jia was so angry that she gritted her teeth. She was already cautious enough this time, but she didn't expect to be fooled by the other party. It's already late, with the cunning of the old demon, he must have already hid by now. It won't be easy to find him again. Yoli shook her head, she didn't want to do useless work. Immediately, she smiled. It's already this time, you can still laugh. Luo Jia was a bit puzzled. The old demon cannot escape. Don't forget, we have a clear understanding of the opponent's next trajectory. Yoli's eyes flickered, saying with a hint of meaning. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Happy Today, Gone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Happy Today, Gone. How did this kid come back again? The village chief Chen Li's face was slightly surprised, and he quickly threw down the teacup in his hand. He turned around and appeared at the entrance of the village. I saw He Changxing in a hurry, panting heavily. Chen Li puzzled and said, Changxing, who are you? Village chief, when did you come over? Why didn't I see you just now? He Changxing was stunned for a moment. He clearly remembered that there was no one at the village entrance just now. You may have misread it, I was just cooling off at the old locust tree. Chen Fifa didn't change his color. As long as he was right, it was someone else who was wrong. He Changxing didn't think much. He had just run away, so he didn't have the thought to carefully pay attention to whether there were people around him. Changxing, didn't you go to cultivate immortality? Did you understand? I'll tell you, what's good about fighting fiercely outside? A little carelessness can lead to death. It's not comparable to the paradise here. Chen Li's mouth curved with a smile, and the young man's nature was to think and think. As you know, village chief, I am a person who values emotions and righteousness. I cannot bear to part with the villagers of Xiaohe village. I don't know when I will be able to meet again this time. Without the support of the villagers, I wouldn't be who I am today. So I have decided to leave in a while. He Changxing forced himself to endure the embarrassment on his face and said seriously. Does he want face? You young man, stay away from that song blacksmith in the future. He has been leading you astray for the past few years. Chen Li glared at He Changxing in anger. Village chief, don't talk about this matter. Have you noticed anything special about our Xiaohe village? He Changxing chuckled and quickly changed the topic. It was important to focus on the main matter. What's special about a mountain village? Chen Li hesitated for a moment, his expression somewhat unnatural. Did this kid find something? No, their acting skills are superb, how could they be exposed? Who dares to say they are not from the countryside? The strangeness on this kid's body is mostly related to this time of going back and forth. Village chief, I heard that you have been getting closer to Widow Mu recently. Be careful not to be told by your aunt. You need to pay attention to your health, He Changxing said with a smile. Chen Li's face turned black and he said angrily, what are you talking nonsense about? I am a famous and serious person from all over the country. Where do you come from near Xiaohe village? He Changxing muttered to himself, no longer entangled with him. He saw just now that the village chief, this terrible old man, must know something, but he doesn't know why to cover it up. It's really satisfying. Is there any unknown secret hidden in this? However, He Changxing did not have the leisure to explore the truth. Those two unscrupulous maids are enough to make him anxious. How to go to the Feather Immortal sect is the top priority. Forget these irrelevant matters. I'll go to the back mountain later and see if there's any spiritual grass, He Changxing thought helplessly. Although he knew there was not much hope, he was still prepared to give it a try, as there was no better way now. He can think with his feet that the elixir is mostly grown in the deep mountains and vast mountains, in a place of elegance and elegance. There is also the condition to activate the system, which makes He Changxing can't help but want to roast. God has enough spiritual power, 10,000 is enough, and 1 million is also enough. He feels like this dog system is playing word games with him. He Changxing returned to his doorstep and habitually glanced at the nearby blacksmith shop, but did not find the figure of Song blacksmith. Today's happiness is gone. He Changxing felt a bit dull and tasteless. There was no hook fence in the village for him to listen to music. This Song blacksmith is a talented person who speaks well, especially he has a good understanding of the various wonders of Xiaohe village. The rumor between the village chief and widow Mu came from here. He enjoys discussing with others when he is idle and bored on weekdays. You, as the host, remain indifferent despite detecting enough top-notch spiritual tools to activate the system. He Changxing was momentarily stunned, certain that he had no hallucinations, and could no longer suppress his excitement. Is there such a good thing? Can the system be activated now? He used to be so worried and restless, except for the feather transformation immortal sect, he was completely clueless. This is really a place to break through iron shoes, it takes no effort to get it. Although it sounds absurd, he really found a top-notch spiritual artifact at his doorstep. System, you probably have a bug, aren't you? There's no trace of any top-notch spiritual weapon nearby. He Changxing looked around and couldn't help but frown. Don't make him happy for nothing. This dog system has rarely been reliable since its inception. He Changxing tried to search around the area, but the system didn't hear any more beeps. He ultimately locked his gaze on the location of the blacksmith shop. Is there any treasure hidden in this Song blacksmith's shop? He Changxing said suspiciously. Then he quickly walked forward, and the system that had just been playing dead finally came to life. Detected enough top-level spiritual tools to activate the system. May I ask the host if they allow the system to immediately convert them into spiritual power to activate the system? Yes. He Changxing said without hesitation. At this point, he didn't care if it belonged to the blacksmith of Song anymore. Anyway, the other party didn't need it either, so it was better to make the most of it. Thinking of this, his sense of guilt suddenly decreased significantly. Before he Changxing could finish his thoughts, he saw the hammer that Song blacksmith used to forge iron on a daily basis, with countless spiritual charms visible to the naked eye, instantly being completely consumed by the invisible power of the system. It almost blinded his eyes. By the time he regained his senses, everything had come to an end and he had returned to peace again. The blacksmith shop was still the blacksmith shop, and the hammer was still the same hammer. The hammer is still there. He Changxing took a deep breath, and his sense of guilt dissipated instantly. At least he couldn't see any difference between this hammer and before. Without further delay, he quickly returned home and checked the system's prompt sound just now. The Tiandao simulator has been successfully activated. Activate and consume spiritual power. 9900, current remaining spiritual power. 100, with that top-notch spiritual weapon so valuable, you'll leave me 100. He Changxing felt speechless and couldn't help but curse the dog system again. It's really too dark. This dog system is definitely intentional, otherwise wouldn't the activation conditions be too harsh? Detected variables in your life, do you want to start simulating? This simulation requires 10 points of spiritual power consumption. Start simulating. He Changxing took a deep breath and calmed down a bit. At the age of 18, you went out to search for immortals and Taoism, but unfortunately, you had a bad start and were chased by a reincarnated maid. Fortunately, with the help of the system, you were in a precarious situation and fled back to Xiaohe village in embarrassment. You hid in Xiaohe village for some time, and as the day of meeting Li Daozuan approached, after careful consideration, you disguised yourself and set off for Yangping County. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Injecting Air into the Body. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Injecting air into the body. You were careful and cautious all the way, and finally arrived in Yangping County without any danger. Little did they know that your two maids had been waiting here for a long time. Although you have dressed up in disguise, your skills are really poor, and Luo Jia saw through them at a glance. Your maid hates you to the bone. After a simple discussion, they all agreed to give you a painful death. After Luo Jia declared her identity as the eldest princess, you were torn apart by the obedient Yangping County magistrate, ending your painful life. At this moment, Li Daozuan happened to pass by and saw that you were nowhere to be found. He let out a deep sigh and didn't make any further stops. He Changxing's face turned pale, and he was also one of these two malicious maids. What is killing the heart? This dog system must be intentional. If Li Daozuan could be a step faster, perhaps there might be a chance to save him. You two stinky women must not fall into my hands in the future. He Changxing gritted his teeth and said. What else are you, the magistrate of Yangping County? Do you know that you are aiding the emperor in his tyranny? The law of the country is corrupted by people like you. At this moment, the system pops up a prompt sound again. The simulation is over, you can choose one of the following rewards. And there are rewards. He Changxing's face lit up with joy, but soon his smile froze. Meng County Magistrate's experience in being an official. Introduction to Luojia's Jade Maiden Sword Technique. Li Daozuan's personal clothing. This reward is not right. He doesn't want to choose any of them. What kind of Jade Girl swordsmanship? The name is Yin Ro, and it doesn't look like something powerful. Are you sure this is a choice, not leaving me with no other choice? He Changxing said in frustration. As an official, isn't it just a matter of sacrificing one's life? Li Daozuan's personal clothing, the system should leave it for you. Please make a choice as soon as possible, otherwise it will be considered as a waiver. Do you still have a choice? Just the second one, He Changxing said helplessly. You have chosen Luojia's Jade Girl swordsmanship, and the reward is being distributed. He Changxing only felt that his mind had experienced a momentary trance, and an additional insight about the Jade Lady sword technique appeared in his memory. So it's like this, it seems that the Jade Lady sword technique can still be used. He Changxing chuckled dryly, but still couldn't escape the true fragrance law. He was just misled by this name. It's not a swordsmanship practiced for women, but rather a refined posture that exudes a graceful and ethereal demeanor. In the next moment, a weak white light suddenly emanated from around him. He Changxing felt a warm current flowing through his body, and his body instantly felt much lighter. Reward distribution completed. You have entered the beginner level of the Jade Maiden swordsmanship. With the assistance of the Jade Maiden swordsmanship, you have successfully infused qi into your body. Is this entering the immortal realm? He Changxing was taken aback and immediately became ecstatic. It turns out that choosing the Jade Maiden sword technique is a good thing. Xiuxian, but that's all. It's not difficult to understand that if he had no cultivation, he wouldn't have been able to learn the Jade Maiden sword technique. Unfortunately, there is no sword at home. He Changxing can't wait to get over his addiction now. Who didn't have the dream of a swordsman when they were young? At the same time, the blacksmith Song rubbed his buttocks while muttering. Why don't you pay attention, kid? You went to report to the village chief. It's really hurting me now. Wait for me, kid, and see how I'll deal with you next time. He secretly thought to himself that he must follow the same method when the time comes. As soon as he returned to the blacksmith's shop, he immediately noticed something was wrong with his hammer and couldn't help but glare angrily as he said. Which one who received $1,000 stole my hammer? Did the blacksmith of Song discover it? He Changxing's expression became somewhat unnatural. He vaguely heard the other party's angry voice and silently felt sorry for the blacksmith Song for a second. He withdrew his thoughts as if nothing had happened. It's all the fault of this dog system. It stole Song blacksmith's hammer and even brought him, a kind-hearted person, to the point where he had to bear the blame with the dog system. However, on the other hand, how did the blacksmith Song discover that the hammer was not right? He clearly remembers that there was no change before and after. Isn't Song blacksmith a cultivator? He Changxing thought of the lewd face of the blacksmith Song, and it was difficult to associate the two together. This is truly true that one cannot judge by appearance, and the sea cannot compare. Leaving aside the issue of the blacksmith Song, He Changxing feels that he should still care more about himself now. It is not a long-term solution to keep hiding in Xiaohe village. The results of this simulation, although not satisfactory, also gave him several important pieces of information. The most crucial thing is that he can't go to Yongping County anymore, and those two crazy women are waiting for him to fall into the trap there. Now it's better to stay away from those two crazy women who can easily crack their cars. However, can living people still suffocate their urine? This matter can be changed completely. He doesn't insist on going to Yongping County, so Li Daozuan will accept him as his disciple. If we skip Yongping County directly and go to the Feather Immortal sect, then all the problems will be easily solved, won't we? As long as he enters the Feather Transformation Immortal sect, everything will soon return to the right track. When the time comes, these two crazy women won't even have to be maids. If it had been before, he would still have had some headaches. After all, the road to this place is high and far. As an ordinary person with no strength to bind a chicken, the key is that he doesn't have the money yet. It's simply a pipe dream to walk to the Feather Immortal sect. Now that cultivation is close to the body, this matter becomes much simpler. He Changxing felt the unprecedented power emanating from his body, and his confidence doubled. Although it's just a beginner's stage of refining qi, it's not something that ordinary people can compare to. At least among ordinary people, he is the most dazzling cub. Looking at his remaining 90 balance, he Changxing took a deep breath, not panicking, and could simulate 9 times, always finding a path that suited him. System, let me start the simulation again. This simulation requires 20 points of spiritual power. Are you sure the host has enabled it? Current remaining spiritual power. 90, is the price going up now? Are you grabbing money? He Changxing was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but feel a burst of anger. It's okay to be bullied by 2 little maids. Now even your dog system wants to ride on my head. Unfortunately, the system is still the ruthless machine as always. No matter how roast, there was no response. It's like punching cotton, leaving him with no place to vent his anger. Discomforts come and go, but it still needs to be used. He Changxing said helplessly, start simulating. Watching the spiritual power deducted in an instant, He Changxing felt a bit painful, which added insult to injury to his already affluent family. It seems that the price increase of this system is related to the improvement of one's own cultivation. Can't it be that every simulation will raise the price once? That's really asking for money, dog system. I advise you to be a mouse tail juice. End of this chapter. Is this reward serious for him in chapter 8? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is this reward serious for him in chapter 8? He Changxing began browsing. At the age of 18, you set off for the Feather Immortal sect. Because you knew nothing about the outside world, let alone where the Feather Immortal sect was located, you avoided Yongping County and headed to Qingzhou Prefecture. You had nothing to do all the way, and easily arrived at Qingzhou by riding a wealthy merchant's convoy. The wealthy merchant sees your majestic demeanor and extraordinary strength, and invites you as a guest at home. You discovered that the wealthy businessman's motives were impure. Under pressure, you finally learned that it was because the other party had recently come to seek revenge from an enemy. On the way, I saw you walking briskly, and that's why I invited you to take a carriage, intending to recruit you. Indeed, the city's tricks are deep, and this wealthy businessman even has to hold himself back in search of death. He Changxing's anger filled his face. If it weren't for his subtle caution, wouldn't he have capsized in the sewer again this time? He never believed in any baseless kindness. If there was one, it must have been ulterior motives. You spared the wealthy businessman's life and then took all the money from his car. The wealthy businessman gritted his teeth and watched helplessly as you left. After resting at the inn for a day, after some investigation, you learned that the Feather Immortal sect is 1,000 miles away from Qingzhou. You, who became rich overnight, without hesitation, threw a lot of money to buy a 1,000-mile BMW and a sword with blown hair and broken hair, rushing towards the Feather Immortal sect without stopping. Just as you left the territory of Qingzhou, you encountered an interception and had no way out. You were forced to engage in friction with them and engaged in a battle. With 2 fists, you were unable to defeat 4 hands and were injured and captured. A day later, you saw the wealthy businessman with a face full of petty people achieving success again, and finally figured out the reason. You were filled with regret. 2 days later, you were sold into the mine by a wealthy merchant at a high price. You, a sturdy and durable low-level cultivator, were very popular in the mine. You endured the humiliation and decided to wait for an opportunity to escape at the age of 19, you are mining in a mine at the age of 20, you are mining in a mine at the age of 20.1, you finally figured out the terrain near the mine and identified the weak points. You tried to escape while the moon was dark and the wind was high, but were noticed by a supervisor on the 5th floor of the gas refining period. He had intended to take you back to continue mining after dealing a heavy blow, but he accidentally hit too hard and ended your humiliating life. He Changsheng's face was gloomy, and this time he made the least worthy of a basic mistake, which was not to have the kindness of a woman. Some things are either not done or done to the end. The simulation is over, you can choose one of the following rewards. A sword with blown hair and broken hair. Fei Zhen's crazy tiger fist. The way of doing business for rich merchants. The way of doing business for rich merchants. No cheating, no business. He Changsheng hesitated a little between the first and second rewards and quickly made a choice. The owner of this Quanhu fist should be the person who intercepted him outside Qingzhou city. At most it is a good martial arts secret book. So, it's better to choose which sword is more practical for him. Although he is reluctant to use the Jade Maiden swordsmanship, he currently does not have the right to choose, and reality does not allow him to be picky. You have chosen a sword with blown hair and broken hair, and the reward is being distributed. Immediately after, He Changsheng saw a stream of light appearing out of thin air in front of him, wrapped in a sword with a cold and piercing light. The sword hilt is engraved with the words Dang Feng, indicating that it is the name of this sword. Can this sword convert spiritual power? This is the last thought that He Changsheng had after mastering the sharp sword. He Changsheng was somewhat disappointed that he did not receive a response from the system. It seems that this sharp sword is just an ordinary thing, it's really a white blind with such a beautiful appearance. After looking at the cost of the simulation again, He Changsheng breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there was no further increase in price, otherwise he would have been unable to afford the simulation. Although the simulation once again failed halfway through, it was not without nothing. If it weren't for that damn wealthy businessman himself riding a 1,000-mile horse, he would surely have been able to reach the Feather Immortal sect smoothly. With this in mind, He Changsheng endured the pain and unleashed 20 spiritual powers, starting to simulate again. This simulation deducts 20 points of spiritual power, and the current remaining spiritual power is 50. The new life has been credited, please check it yourself. Without the mood to worry about the gains and losses of the 20 spiritual powers, He Changsheng couldn't wait to start browsing. At the age of 18, you set off for Qingzhou and encountered a wealthy businessman who approached you on the way. Without saying a word, you struck the other person with a sword and the wealthy businessman died in silence. You took possession of the wealth of the wealthy businessman and drove all the way to Qingzhou without any trouble. You came to the horse market, sold the carriage, and invested heavily in buying a 1,000-mile horse. You are tired from traveling and plan to find an inn to rest overnight before embarking on your journey to the Feathered Immortal sect. At night, you were having a late-night snack at the inn when suddenly a few thugs broke in and started teasing the pretty woman at your neighbor's table. The woman was shocked and quickly stood up with a charming face, hiding behind you, praying for your protection. A few thugs saw this and fought fiercely against you. As you didn't want to meddle in your affairs, you were forced to solve the problem in front of you. You were full of anger and wanted to leave this land of trouble, but the pretty woman told you that the kindness of saving her life was priceless, so she had to make a promise with her own body. After hesitating for a while, you still took the woman back to your room from the bottom of your heart, intending to teach her some special knowledge. You didn't notice the cunning flashing in the woman's eyes. This woman has a problem. He Changsheng's face froze and he had a bad premonition in his heart. You had a deep conversation with a pretty woman and started a 3-hour lecture on her. When a girl goes out, she can't help but understand her skills. The woman took advantage of you relaxing her guard and pulled out the hairpin from her head, without hesitation inserting it into your chest. Your angry eyes widened, leaving only a trace of consciousness, only vaguely hearing words to comfort your father's spirit in heaven, ending your life under the peony flower. Is this the daughter of that wealthy businessman? He Changxing's expression was somewhat unnatural. If it were the daughter of a wealthy businessman, then all of this could be explained. This cliché plot of heroes saving beauty is just a trap. In fact, the other party's acting skills are not very impressive, it's just that he is completely unprepared and never thinks about that aspect at all. This woman is truly the daughter of a wealthy businessman. With her cunning and cunning nature, she can be said to have emerged from the blue and surpassed the blue. The simulation is over, you can choose one of the following rewards. 1,000-mile horse. Guan Yun's belly bagged the iron rod of the local ruffian. Is this reward serious for him? The dog system was definitely intentional, and every reward left him with no other choice. He Changxing chose Qianlima with a dark face. Qingzhou is a sad place, and with Qianlima, he will never venture into it again next time. You have selected a 1,000-mile horse, and the reward is being distributed. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. This woman is not a good person. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. This woman is not a good person. The way the reward appeared was still the same, with a stream of light enveloping the 1,000-mile horse. The next moment, He Changxing realized something was wrong and exclaimed in surprise. I'll wipe it. Wait for the system, you stop. Don't come over. He Changxing was very eager to cry without tears. He had just forgotten that he was still in the room and received the reward without even thinking about it. Looking at the big guy in front of him who occupied half of his room, he couldn't help but fall into contemplation. This is a white horse, with long sideburns draped around and no speckles. It looks very good. The only downside is that it doesn't have much connection with spirit beasts. He Changxing secretly thought it's a pity, otherwise he could exchange it for some spiritual power. Hiss. The white horse seemed to notice that He Changxing's gaze was not right, and his head arched towards him, carrying a scent of grass. You're not low on your intelligence, come and listen to my command, bow your head. You go, you. After much effort, He Changxing finally managed to get it into the yard. Looking at the slightly deformed door, he couldn't resist roast. You should lose weight now. You're already an adult horse, and you need to learn to forage on your own. Do you know that? He's too lazy to take care of himself now, he still needs to take care of it. He Changxing refused in his heart. If it weren't for the rush, he would really want to have a full meal. No, it's a lot of pauses. Yo, Xiaqiansheng, why did you keep a horse? But this horse is quite good, just like you, it's quite handsome. He Changxing looked up and saw that it was the White Widow, who was also his neighbor. He usually took good care of him, but the old woman often teased the young man, making him feel overwhelmed. Bai Jie, can you remove the small characters before my name? He Changxing raised his forehead and said helplessly. It seems that Xiaqiansheng is not young, but my sister doesn't believe it unless you prove it to me. Widow Bai looked at him with a smile on her face. System, Bai Jie, this horse was brought by herself. It's useless if I want this thing, why don't you take it back? He Changxing's face stiffened and he quickly changed the topic. In this regard, he is not a match for the White Widow, and if we continue, he will be asking for trouble. I don't want your horse, but if it's Xiao Changxing who gave birth to you, my sister would be very willing to take care of it, Widow Bai chuckled lightly. I think my stomach is pretty good, so let's not trouble Bai for now, He Changxing chuckled. Xiao Changxing, according to the village chief, you still need to go to cultivate immortality. Since you have been defeated and come back halfway, why don't you just stop going? Can you have the heart to abandon your sister, said the widowed Bai pitifully. Life in this world always requires a bit of obsession. If you choose to lie flat from the beginning, wouldn't it be too boring? He Changxing shook his head and said, "Red-pink skeleton, don't bother him." He wondered why the whole village was trying to persuade him to settle for the status quo. If he doesn't cultivate immortality, wouldn't he be sorry for his longevity? Since that's the case, you came to me tonight. Sister has what you want here, and if you miss this village, there won't be this shop. Don't regret it, said Widow Bai in a soft voice after hesitating for a moment. Watching the other person's figure gradually disappear, He Changxing felt a bit melancholy. What does he want? He doesn't want anything. This woman is not a good person. He Changxing is preparing to stay away from her because the lesson from the past is still being displayed there. However, in the end, I couldn't help but open the emulator and choose to start the simulation. This simulation consumes 20 points of spiritual power. The new life simulation has been successfully loaded, and the current remaining spiritual power is 30. He Changxing looked at the remaining balance and couldn't help but sigh. System, how much do you think my over 100 pounds are worth? Why don't you give me some? At the age of 18, you were invited by the White Widow. After hesitating for a while, you couldn't resist your curiosity and kept the appointment as scheduled. The White Widow expresses her feelings to you, claiming to possess a profound cultivation method. If you insist on cultivating immortality, she is willing to help you achieve your wish. You are excited and choose to accept it without hesitation. You have discovered that this is a dual cultivation method. Despite rejecting it from your heart, your body has honestly accepted it all and enjoys it tirelessly. The next day, you broke through your cultivation and tasted the sweetness. You spent days discussing cultivation methods with the White Widow, and even went to the Feather Transformation Immortal Sect, which you forgot about 1 year later. Your cultivation improved by leaps and bounds, breaking through 7 small realms and reaching the 8th level of the Qi refining period at the age of 19. You gradually feel that your body is not as good as before, and many things have become powerless. You ride a white horse and flee in a hurry, casually seeking a secluded place to rest and replenish your nutrition. 3 days later, the White Widow chased after you relentlessly, and your hiding place was discovered at the age of 20. Your body suffered a severe deficit and your cultivation had no breakthrough at the age of 20.1. One night, your body could no longer hold on and collapsed, ending your life of mixed joy and sorrow. After reading it, He Changxing went straight to Bungbu and couldn't help but feel a chill in some part of his body. This woman is also too tough. Can't you just take it easy? At the end of this simulation, you can choose one of the following rewards. 8 levels of cultivation during the refining period. Yin-Yang Secret Classic. All memories of this simulation. Looking at the reward options, He Changxing burst into tears. Finally, it came in handy this time. Although this Yin-Yang secret code is not very serious, at least it is a method of cultivation. In addition, he is also quite curious about the painful experience in his simulation. So, he chose the cultivation level of 8 levels during the refining period. You have selected the 8th level cultivation during the refining period, and the reward is being distributed. The momentum on He Changxing's body suddenly increased, climbing step by step. In just a blink of an eye, his cultivation completed the transition from practicing Qi level 1 to level 8. He felt the power around him, a feeling that was unprecedented. These 20 spiritual powers are worth more than the sum of my previous attempts. But he soon couldn't laugh anymore. He found that the spiritual power he needed to simulate was also rising with his own cultivation, reaching a level that made him despair. How about we go find the formation eye of Xiaohe village and exchange some spiritual power for emergency response? He Changxing immediately thought of this. There was nothing to say overnight. He Changxing got up early in the morning and led his white horse out of the door. After all, he had no idea at all now. He thought he might go to the back mountain to take a look and herd the horses. Song Gu, good morning. Seeing the figure inside the blacksmith's shop, he quickly stepped forward and greeted with a smile. Detected top-grade spiritual weapon. Is it converting spiritual power? Dog system, you're trying to trap me in injustice. He Changxing smiled even more and glanced at the hammer in Song Blacksmith's hand without leaving a trace. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Blame the system for not being human. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Blame the system for not being human. The blacksmith Song looked at him with a gloomy expression on his face and said, Changxing, how does Song treat you in his daily life? Does he put in all his heart and lungs, thinking of you for any good things? He Changxing felt flustered in his heart and pretended to be calm, saying, Of course, Song Gu, you are my own brother. If our family doesn't speak the same language, yours is mine. If there's anything you want, just let me know. It's absolutely my duty to do it. Could it be that the hammer incident was discovered? It's all because of this dog system, which has implicated this honest person as well. The blacksmith Song said with a gloomy expression, Then why did you betray my elder brother, causing me to be killed by the village chief? Forget it, let's not talk about the old story. Speak up quickly, otherwise I won't spare you. He Changxing breathed a heavy sigh of relief in his heart. It was not as good as he thought. He quickly explained. Song Gu, heaven and earth have a conscience. How could I betray you? I was just kind enough to remind the village chief to pay more attention to his health. I haven't mentioned a word about your name, Brother Song. It seems that you must have been tempted by the village chief. Song, you're just too honest. Look at me, I'm just too honest, which is why I often suffer losses. Next time, no matter what others ask you, Song Gu, you will directly deny it. Don't worry whether others believe it or not, as long as you believe it. The village chief is really narrow-minded. It seems that what Song Gu said is true, otherwise he wouldn't want to cover it up too much. Reasonable. The blacksmith Song pondered, feeling as if something was wrong, but he couldn't say for a moment. If Brother Song has nothing to do, I'll leave first, bro. He Changxing looked at the blacksmith Song with reluctance, but his gaze never left his hammer from the beginning to the end. Successfully prevented a systematic wrongdoing, He Changxing muttered to himself that he truly deserves to be a well-known kind-hearted person in Xiaohe village. However, the dog system will never give up easily, and the next time it does something wrong, it may not be able to stop it. Song Blacksmith is such a good person, but he also suffers from the harm of the dog system. He Changxing was about to get on the white horse when he suddenly felt a chill all over his body. He instinctively shuddered. He quickly looked behind him and saw the beautiful figure of the White Widow. The other party stared at him intently, with a hint of resentment in their eyes that even 10 Song Blacksmiths couldn't match, as if they were about to eat him. He Changxing quickly flipped over and mounted his horse, but without looking back, he crossed over and left. The blacksmith Song looked at the scene before him with great interest, while grinning and jokingly saying, as the saying goes, a widow is interested, but a child is ruthless. With a clever voice, I have already said that he doesn't like your style. Why bother with it? Song Lingzi, if you insist on dying, I will fulfill you right away. Bai Miaoyin said with a fierce expression on her face and a cold and stern gaze. The blacksmith Song sneered and said, just pretend that I haven't said anything. By the way, have you seen my hammer? If there's anything wrong, go charge at him. My hammer is innocent. Go to hell with you. Bai Miaoyin let out a sharp shout, and without saying a word, she offered a spiritual artifact in the shape of a pair of scissors. Under the urging of the spell, it transformed into a golden light and directly hit the opponent's vital points. You see, you're getting angry from embarrassment. Song Blacksmith's smile stiffened as he hastily blocked a blow and ran away, not forgetting to mock him as he ran. Bai Miaoyin was furious for a moment and chased after her closely. The scissors on her hands were like rain, perhaps feeling that this was not enough to relieve her anger. She ran and cursed, stupid idiot, you're dead today, even the village chief can't stop you. I didn't ask you to compensate me with the hammer, that's good. You're actually going to repay me with kindness. You should catch up with me first before we talk. Blacksmith Song gritted his teeth, fully used his spiritual power, and quickly swept forward without looking back. Bai Miaoyin continued to chase closely, and the two of them quickly disappeared in front of each other. He Changxing rode a white horse and ran non-stop all the way to the back mountain. He glanced behind him and let out a sigh of relief. Until now, he still had some lingering palpitations, and for him, the White Widow was no different from a wild beast. He shudders whenever he sees the eyes of the White Widow now. There's something wrong with Xiaohe village. Widow Bai is not only proficient in the dual cultivation method, but also has a higher cultivation level than herself. The blacksmith Song is even more peculiar, even the hammers used for forging are too high-level spiritual weapons. He Changxing pondered and his face couldn't help but become strange. Looking back now on the various actions of the village chief before, including the words he said when leaving the village, it is simply full of flaws. So, they're all teaming up to play me. A strange expression flashed on He Changxing's face. The changes in this script left him a bit caught off guard. Although he couldn't be completely sure yet, based on the information he currently has, his guess is already very close. Thinking of this, He Changxing couldn't help but feel ecstatic. $. At this moment, his mind was filled with the walking spiritual powers in Xiaohe village. After strolling around the back mountain, the white horse had enough to eat and drink, and He Changxing also withdrew his thoughts. This place did not disappoint him, it was still the barren mountain in his memory, much more sincere than the village chief, Song blacksmith, and those bad old men. Even if a mountain god suddenly pops up and asks if he dropped a golden horse or a silver horse, he won't be surprised. Without much pause, He Changxing rode back, his current thought being how to prevent the system from continuing to do evil. Nowadays, he walks in the village with a cool demeanor and has a 100% chance of turning heads. During this period, many villagers asked about the origin of the white horse, and He Changxing had to casually explain that the white horse had come by himself. What I said to Blacksmith Song earlier happened to apply here, whether others believe it or not, he believed it anyway. As He Changxing passed by the blacksmith's shop, he couldn't help but look inside and didn't find the figure of Song blacksmith, but the hammer was still there. Brother Song is not at home again. Isn't this another opportunity for the dog system to take advantage of? He Changxing's face lit up with joy, and his figure also approached the blacksmith's shop at the same time. Detected top. Quality spiritual artifact, is it converted to spiritual power? Song, I did my best. It's not that my brother didn't help you, it's all because the system isn't human. He Changxing sighed and tearfully chose to switch. Spiritual power conversion successful, current remaining spiritual power. 50-30, He Changxing was refreshed and restrained the excitement in his heart. After confirming that there was nothing unusual around him, he quickly returned home without looking back, and then closed the door directly. After checking without error, his tense expression finally eased. Although this door may seem empty and real to the White Widow, the last bit of stubbornness in her heart tells him that it must be done. Fire prevention, theft prevention, and protection against the surname Bai. Then He Changxing eagerly opened the system panel and looked at his balance. He Changxing finally smiled contentedly. What is a sense of security? Only with spiritual power can one have a sense of security. End of this chapter.